once again, just a little bit early today because it's Tuesday, live from the parking lot of Sprouts Farmers Market. This time they turned the sign around and now the letters are the right side. And just returned from the Sacramento Natural Foods Co-op, where I got a giant coffee, and now I'm being loquacious. I drank many gulps of loquaciousness. And there we are. In the distance, you can see the beautiful land park area of Sacramento. But anyway, yesterday, I actually did a little magic for us all with the element of air and the spirits of air, and that got me on this air trip, and I'm going to continue on it. And I found this. It looks like a photo album, but no, it's more. When the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic first was published, I made this book, and the idea of the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic as an extension of my magical Pentacle is sort of the trip that we've all been on in the last week or so. I just want to show you what I did here. First of all, these are the uncolored versions before Constance painted them. This is the line drawings that I made for her. And if you recall, let's see if I can find it. That's my Pentacle. Okay, remember that? With the 4 trees of life and the Nuit and Hadit, Rahur Kuit. And so when I say my tarot deck is an extension of my Pentacle, this is what I mean. So here we have the entire suit of wands, and we've got the Knight, Queen, Prince, and Princess along the side there to show kind of that rulership. Now, just to remind you, the knights or the kings more or less represent this whole Kabbalistic world here, represented by the Hokmah on every tree. And the queen more or less represents the huge level of consciousness, Kabbalistic world, part of the soul, associated with number 3. So between the ace and the knight and the queen, we've got the supernal triad happening there. The prince, or the Vav in Yod-He Vav-He, represents this entire collection of 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That's the principality. But his main headquarters is right there in number 6. And the princesses represent this level right down here, number 10. Okay, so there's one of those trees of life. Here's the one for the cups. The one for the swords. We're going to talk about swords here in just a minute. And the discs. So that has just taken care of the lesser arcana right there. Can you see how my Pentacle is expressed by these cards? Okay. Now, there's lots of moving parts, and they're all going on at the same time in this deck. So I'm showing you the back of the deck, the back of each card, And I've got Enochian equipment. There's the Enochian Holy Table. There is the Tablet of Union. And there's two versions of the Tablet of Union, and that's, well, there's a long story because of the Black Cross has two versions. Yeah, whatever. And then here are the sigils for what we now consider the elemental tablet of air, water, earth, and fire. So now I did that to set the stage for what's coming up after this section. Here are the 22 trumps in threes. Now those 22 trumps are those paths for each of those trees of life. They're all happening simultaneously. They all have a little bit different significance as they move from one tree of life to another. So, that's the Enochian Tablet of Union. And, it says rotate. I guess it doesn't want me to do that. Okay, there is the Tablet of Union, and that top row says X harp. And you see I've tried to color that. Okay. That Tablet of Union represents this entire elemental tablet of air. Why did I start with air? Because Enochians like that to start with air, water, earth, fire. They just like that. They're crazy that way. So there is the entire Enochian tablet of air represented on the Ace of Swords. And then there are the 4 court cards. Again, the order: heir, prince, queen, princess, and knight. Okay, and then we got the same thing going here for cups, only that's that second great name off the Tablet of Union, Hakama. And here we see Hakama is actually spelled out by the court cards. H for the ace, C, O, M, A. And if you really want to know what all that means to you personally, scry into that tattva symbol and project into it and write down what vision you see. And here's Nanta for earth, N, A, N, T, A. And Bitum for fire, B, I, T, O, M. Okay, now I know this is old stuff to most of you, but I'm in the parking lot of a grocery store, and this is the best thing I can come up with at the moment. Okay, now I've got this chart here that shows the rulership of the court cards with 3 small cards living inside each of the princes, queens, and knights. Princesses don't get small cards in them because they're busy being the throne of the ace. They got more important work to do. So I've got the small cards, the 36 small cards, gathered together in the decans that they represent. So the 2s, 3s, 4s, all the 2s, 3s, 4s represents the cardinal signs of the zodiac, and cardinal fire is Aries. So these 3 cards represent the first 10 degrees of Aries, the second 10 degrees of Aries, and second 10 degrees of Aries, and the third 10 degrees of Aries. But not quite. Well, we'll see. They do represent those 30 degrees, but the court card that rules them has a little trick that it does. So anyway, the 5, 6s, and 7s all represent the fixed signs of the zodiac. So fixed fire. Oh, where am I? Oh, we're going through the zodiac. So I'm taking these small cards through the zodiacal year. Here's how it goes. Thanks for reminding me, Lon. Okay. 2, 3, 4 of Wands for Aries. 5, 6, 7 of Discs for Taurus. 8, 9, 10 of Swords for Gemini. Isn't that cool? What comes after Gemini? Cancer. So 2, 3, 4 of Cups for Cancer. 5, 6, 7 for Leo of Fire. 5, 6, 7 of Wands. 8, 9, 10 of Discs for Virgo. Then start over with 2, 3, 4 of Swords for Libra. 5, 6, 7 of Cups for Scorpio. 8, 9, 10 of Wands for Sagittarius. Starting over, 2, 3, 4 of Discs for Capricorn. 5, 6, 7 of Swords for Aquarius. And 8, 9, 10 of Cups for Pisces. Isn't that slicker than dog snot? Okay, then I've got, oh, no, I'm not going to bring anyone on camera. Excuse me, no. Have I screwed up? Okay, there's that. And on the Enochian elemental tablets, the small cards are placed in the grand cross of each of the elemental tablets in groups of 3s. It's just so clean, it squeaks. And I've got a couple of enlargements. There's our Ace of Swords. Okay, Knight of Cups. These are just examples. And then here's the charts that show the rulership of all those cards. Isn't that a swell book? Anyway, how far have I gotten here? I'm going to try to get the camera to turn back around. I'm not really very good at this, so let me try that. Let's see. There I am. I bet you missed me. Okay, I'm going to try to set my camera up here. And are we still there? I'm going to roll my window down because it's, believe it or not, it's getting a bit warmer in Sacramento after a long time of chilly nights. Okay, what was I going to do? I was going to drink some coffee. Let's talk about that sword. Now remember, on your Pentacle, you scratched or you drew a design that represented your idea of the universe, your magical reality. But you had to scratch that design on your disc, on that flat plate. You had to draw it like the disc is the earth itself, and you just squatted on a rock and tried to imagine using your intellect, using your imagination, using your powers of reasoning, you take yourself a stick of some kind and you start to draw on the earth. And all the other cave people are going, "What are you doing?" I've got an idea, and I'm putting this idea, I'm fixing it. I'm going to draw it on the earth, okay? First to explain it to myself, and then maybe to explain it to you. So that stick, that sharp, pointy stick that represents ideas, thoughts, images, intellect, reasoning, is your sword. That sharp thing is the beginning of your magic sword. And it's the sword, the point of the sword, that scratches that image on the disc. So, what's your magic sword? Okay, in homemade magic, which I'm teasing you again, is coming out in a new edition later this year. The magic sword. The magic sword is the analytical faculty. That was added for emphasis. The magic sword is the analytical faculty attributed to air, all wandering, all penetrating, but unstable. The sword, necessary as it is to the beginner, is but a crude weapon. Its function is to keep off the enemy or to force a passage through them. And though it must be wielded to gain admission to the palace, it cannot be worn to the wedding feast. That's what Crowley had to say in Magic Liber ABA. The Pentacle is engraved with a symbol that represents the magician's universe. The sword bears a word. Now, excuse me while I digress and roll the window up here. Isn't it funny that in the English language, the word sword, that means a long, sharp, pointy thing, is pronounced sword, like it should be spelled S-O-R-D, sword, or S-O-R-E-D, sword. But no, it's pronounced S-word. Now, I was told in school not to say the S-word in school. And I could go off on a vulgar sounding but incredibly heavy conversation about the word shit, or S-H-T. Okay. But S-word, in this case, is actually the sword. The sword is the word, a word, okay? No shit. Okay. The sword bears, boy, I'm in the first sentence of this. I bet we're going to have to finish some other time. The sword bears a word that represents the magician's universe. This can actually be a word, a noun, a pronoun, a verb, adverb, adjective, preposition, conjunction, or interjection in some language that is meaningful to you. A word like that engraved upon the blade of an actual sword. Or the word of the sword can be a more subtle vibratory expression of your universe than that which can be articulated by sounds originating in your meat larynx and pushed over your flapping tongue and out of your mouth. I'd like to be able to tell you that I made my magic sword myself. That I, like the ancient magicians, dug the ore out of the ground with a shovel I had fashioned myself. That I smelted the ore in the heat of charcoal I made from wood of a tree that I planted myself as a young boy and then chopped down myself. That I hammered the raw metal into a blade, etc. I'd like to be able to share with you the secret magic word that I engraved upon its shining blade. Shazam. Abracadabra. Or etiquette. Etiquette is DuQuette spelled awkward bay. And big spelled backwards is Gip. But I didn't do any of those things. I bought my magic sword at an antique store near my home in Costa Mesa, California. But before you chastise me for being lazy and unmagical, I'd like to share with you the circumstances surrounding its acquisition and what my magic sword means to me, how it qualifies to be my word. Hopefully this story will give you some idea of what these homemade magical weapons are truly about and what you need to do to create or earn your own. Now, I digressed so long at first going through that thing there that I think I've run us actually out of time. I'm going to pick this up tomorrow, if I may be allowed to do that, and we'll find out more about my word. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. The word of the law is Thelema.